Before we get to the next video on how to tune a few, I just want to make you guys aware of some recent happenings. If you follow this channel, you know that we're located in southern Louisiana, and it was the victim of a lot of flooding in the past month. And unfortunately, we were one of the ones affected. I'm not going to say we were affected the worst because many people had far more damage than we did. But we did sustain upwards of $50,000, possibly more dollars worth of damage. FEMA has given us not even 15% of that, so we're in the process, and we were not in a flood zone, so there was no flood insurance to cover it. This house has never flooded. The level of water that we received was higher than the last record in 1921, which would not have flooded the house. We got about 5 inches of water, just enough to completely ruin our entire house flooring. Much of the furniture was wet with contaminated river water, flood water. We're on sewer systems out here, so you can imagine all the sewage from all the systems. But anyway, we're in the process of cutting out sheetrock to control mold growth. And not that this is a plea for necessarily help, but it occurred to me that since we're getting about 5,000 views a day, YouTube recently has cut the earnings that YouTubers make, and many YouTubers have placed a donation button that I would follow suit. And if you found something in our videos that helps you, consider maybe clicking that button and leaving us a little tip that could aid in our recovery down here. So thanks for your consideration. Hey, welcome to How to Tune a Few. Today we're going to take a look at changing some heater hoses on this Chevy Venture. I wasn't planning on making this video due to some of our issues that we have around here from due to recent flooding, but it's such a bizarre set of heater hoses that I think it's worthy of a video, since they're kind of problematic in changing. There's a couple of T-fittings that are kind of odd. So while I've already removed everything, I'm going to go ahead and show you at what point I'm at now, what I did to remove them, and then we'll go ahead with trying to get it back together. Alright, so here we can see one of these three-part fittings, and this is actually where our fault occurred. One of these was cracked on the other part that was venting steam and leaking out the coolant. So there's 3 hoses attached to each of these, and several of them have these quick connect but not quick disconnect fittings. So these hoses run about $30 a piece. This is the one that I bought to replace that one. The other one with the fitting, I'm choosing to replace this with just a standard heater hose, and I'm going to use a clamp here and eliminate that fitting. It's just not worth to me to buy another $30. Actually, I think that one might even have been more. The space is seriously limited here. Here's one of the quick connect fittings. That's the one I'm going to replace with just a straight hose and a clamp. You can see the little yellow retainer plastic still on there that I have to cut off. That fed hot water to the T, which connected to these ports in the back. There are 2 ports facing up. Those lead to the rear heater core if you have an auxiliary heater, and then the 2 that are next to the brake booster coming out of the firewall are the ones for the dashboard front heater system. Something I just noticed is that they are 2 different size hoses. That could potentially be a problem, so I'll see what I have to do with that, because I am planning on replacing most of these hoses with standard 5/8 heater hose. And then also, it's kind of hard to see, but there you can see the other fitting connection. That is the hose that I did buy for $30. I just felt, since it was back in there and it has a very drastic curve to it, that I would not be able to replicate that with standard heater hose, so I did purchase that one. Here we can see those T connectors, and I did purchase 2 new ones directly from GM. They were a little over $5, let's say $6 a piece, plus shipping probably brought it to around $10 a piece. These are available from other places in parts stores for $25 to $30 a piece. So I went ahead and ordered them straight from General Motors. One of the few times that the dealer is actually cheaper than aftermarket. Perhaps a plumbing supply store you could get something similar that would work, but we're going back with General Motors parts in this case. In my attempt to get heater hose, I wanted 6 feet, but they only had 4 left, so I'm going to be a little kind of tight. But here I've mocked up one of the, whatever you want to call them, Spider T heater hose assemblies, and I'm going to use it as a template for replacing the hoses. So I'm going to make a cut here. I'm overestimating the length just a little, maybe by an inch or so. Maybe by 2 inches. Alright, one of my little tricks for this is that I'm going to try to put the hose clamps on beforehand. This is not really the trick part. The trick part's coming. Then before I slide any hose on, I'm going to hit it with a little WD-40. That is going to make for a real easy assembly. Now, the way this goes in is going to make this one bend like this. So I want to make sure that the natural bend in the hose is making it an advantage, is working in my favor as opposed to working against me. This hose is going to be doing this. But let's hit that one. Alright, so our first little replacement T is set. Next we'll go to the car and see how it kind of matches up before we finalize it. I am going to put some of the clamps in place. Not going to be much to see here. I'm going to use a razor knife to try to remove these plastic retainers. I guess they should probably, before I do that, let me just try to use my fingers and see if I can pull them off. Alright, so they just simply pull off, no problem. Now I'm going to spray some WD-40 on each of them. I'll probably hit a few of them again once I install them. Alright, so let me tell you, that was no small feat. There we go. You can see the hose is on. I don't have the clamp on yet, but I have to tell you that one of the things I did was I removed the pivot on the wipers so that I could kind of move this assembly out of the way temporarily and give myself a little more room. But that hose was, what do you call that? A 30-minute hose. I'm quite sure you're not going to be able to see what I'm doing now, but I'm taking a clamp, sliding it down this piece of hose. Alright, the clamp is on there, but I have to say it's not how I wished it would have went. It looks like the clamp is damaged. I'm not trusting it. Since I had extra clamps, I may slide on a second one right behind it. So I'm gonna try to do that now. Alright, now there's 2 crimp clamps on there. I'm a little bit more satisfied with the second one. And that stem did stick out pretty far, so I'm certain that that is a good seal. We won't have any problems with it.
And now I can go ahead and install the rest of that three-way system. Alright, both hoses are now connected and clamped to the firewall. We are going to do the bottom set first and make those connections, and then do the second tee. So hopefully everything should go smoothly from here on out. I apologize again that you can't really see in there, but here's the next step. This is going to go on that back to the rear one. This tee is going to hook to the bottom one, the first difficult one, and we're going to clamp that. There's no clamp on the hose yet, but we're going to end up using one of these compression clamps, and then this one will slide on in place, and we will worry about making that connection last. I don't have the snap in there yet, so we might fit it in place now just to make sure everything fits well, and then put the snap in there later. First, again, I'm going to hit everything with a little incentive to go on easy. Again, I apologize about the view, but other than that snap fitting, the rear connections, all the T connections, and the front heater core connections are made on our first set. Alright, I still have the wiper arms to put back on, but I wanted you to see. I tried the free-handed, but I gotta tell you, it's hot. I'm thoroughly exhausted, so I'm putting it back on a tripod. Don't know how much you can see here, but this is a monstrosity. A total of 6 heater hoses connected by 2 T's, originally with 2 quick connect fittings. By the way, I didn't film when I put that on. I just slid that plastic cap onto the hose until it wouldn't go anymore, and then I slid the hose on and it kind of clicked. I pushed it further on just to make sure it was snug. We should be good to go. The rest of the hose clamps are tight, so yeah, like 12 or so hose clamps, 6 hoses, 2 T's, and a quick. There should be 2 quick fit connectors, but since we eliminated one, I was going to eliminate the other, as I told you previously, but that bend in that hose was just too much. If you can find a hose with a bend like that, I guess you could eliminate the other quick connect too and not spend the $30. Alright, now I'm letting some of the water leak out of the reservoir tank, because while this problem was occurring, we were filling it with water and there's hardly any coolant left, so I want that to exit the system, and we're going to fill it with coolant from now on so that we get up to the proper 50-50 mixture of antifreeze and water. But I'm going to crank it up now and let it heat up and check and see if we have any leaks. Alright, I reattached the wiper arms and I sprayed a little lithium grease on there, lubricate them. They're working real good. I put the cover back on, the seal, and then went ahead and cranked it up. I turned the heater on so I could get some water circulation, and you can hear the fans blowing. So the engine is at operating temperature. I let it get hot enough. I felt the hoses, which are very hot, so be careful you don't burn yourself, but I wanted to make sure they had pressure built up, and I checked for any leaks, and I'm not seeing any leaks. So we're going to let it cycle a couple of times. Almost all the water in the reservoir is pumped in, and so we will start filling that with actual antifreeze so that that will mix in with the missing coolant, and we should be good to go. Hopefully this video helped you. Appreciate a thumbs up, maybe subscribe if you haven't, and check for the donate button below. If this video helped you out and you feel obligated, it surely is appreciated. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time.